Welcome to Gold Derby's costume design panel with Emmy contenders. I'm David Buchanan, joined today by Sharon Gilham from The Wheel of Time. Sharon, this season of The Wheel of Time is in many ways so much more expansive than the first season. So I wanted to ask you, when you saw the scripts and you heard what the idea was for how the world was going to expand, what were you most excited to sink your teeth into and design?
Well, I had never worked on a show of this scale before, so the whole thing was a big, exciting project for me, to be quite honest. Similarly, actually, it's interesting listening to Carlos, to what he was saying was that his first project, or the first part of the project, was creating the army. That's exactly what I had to do when I started the Wheel of Time, because they were finishing off season 1 while we were prepping season 2. And the Seanchan army was the first thing that I had to create. So, and Rafe's brief was, can you create an army like no one's ever seen before? So it was like, okay, this is right at the beginning. This is what I have to jump into. And it was very exciting. It was such a big project, and I'd never worked on a fantasy show of this scale before. So I was just determined to enjoy it, I guess. I was determined to just make the most of it and really push the boundaries, have some fun, just experiment, actually, which Rafe really encouraged. So I think, like in a fantasy show like this, fantasy shows are fun. You can really push your ideas and you can push boundaries. I think we were just very lucky to have a showrunner who was so open to experimentation. And, that's such a gift to a costume designer. It's The Wheel of Time is based on a series of books, which are very big, have a very big fan base. So that's very important to acknowledge. Also, within the books, Robert Jordan, the writer, was very, very specific about these different cultures. He wrote a lot of detail about the way things look. So you've got loads of source material to work from the books. And then you've got various other sort of, what do you call them, sort of subjects or like boundaries that you have to work within. So each of the world is divided up into a world that has a map. So we had a map of the Wheel of Time on our wall in our office. And each nation within this map is a mix of 2 cultures from our world. So, you've got the books with all the information. You've got this idea of one of the cultures, Kyrene, was French and Japanese. So you take from French reference from any period you like. You take some information from Japanese reference and you mix it together, and you very respectfully, without any cultural appropriation, you create your own look for an entire world. And that is really, really incredibly exciting to work with, to have all that information. You can take things from any period in time, and the only thing that you have to bear in mind and which kind of keeps you grounded, is that everything has to look as if it was made before the Industrial Revolution. So, if you have prints, they have to look like they're screen printed. Things have to look as if they were made by hand, etc. So you have this amazing melting pot of ideas, references, places you could go, and you have to sort of really find a way to not just completely like lose your mind. You have to just find a way to kind of start making your world into something coherent. So it was incredibly exciting.
Yeah, you picked up on something I wanted to ask you about the Seanchan army, because they have the most just exquisite headpieces, those metal face coverings. I mean, just some beautiful work. And I wanted to ask you first, what was the inspiration for those looks? And second, what's the process of making them, crafting them, and then bringing them to life on screen? Because they really, it's so evocative when you see those characters come on screen.
Yeah, I mean, the Seanchan was the biggest culture for season 2, and it's probably the one that spent most time on because they have such an impact and they have to be, very dangerous looking and threatening and so on. The Seanchan world is a mix of Mesoamerican and Chinese, imperial Chinese. So obviously the references, you start doing a lot of reference for that, pulling that together. And then there's also in the books, it says that they have, they look like insects. And I sort of extended that into reptilian textiles and textures and so on. And the color palette for them was the sort of Mesoamerican influence, because some of the first designs for that sort of had feathers and so on, but it just became too much cultural appropriation. So we use the color palette from there, and they also come from the sea. So I use this idea of like rusted metal as the colors of their entire culture, because like I was saying, there's all these different cultures and you have to understand where the characters are all the time in the world and in the story. So to give each culture quite a strong and clear color palette was really important. And then I wanted to sort of like deform their bodies a bit as well. So like the Death Watch, which is the sort of elite guard, have this, and the Suldam, who are these women who control women who are soldiers, have this sort of carapace thing on their back. So once I got going, like we all do as costume designers, you start taking ideas and then it all starts to make sense. And as you go down the line of developing the culture, things that you didn't think you'd ever use suddenly come into play. And then Lady Suroth, who is the kind of, I thought was the queen of the Seanchan, she comes in at the end of episode 2 and in this huge palanquin, and the director, Thomas Napper, wanted it to look as if she was, his reference was Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra in a film from the 60s, where he said, watch this. And it was like, it takes 7 minutes for her to arrive on screen, 7 minutes of screen time. That's the idea behind this character. And so she has this sort of big mask, like a mask headdress with like mandibles and a stinger coming out the front. And that's also to do with her costume and her face covering, and her second in command's face covering is all about the power of the voice and being able to, how you use your voice to intimidate people. She doesn't speak, she has someone who speaks for her. And then down the line, as we were developing the women who they control, who the Damani, I put this gold stopper in their mouth, which was actually a reference from a Mesoamerican pre-Aztec image that I found. But it all made sense in terms of it's about who speaks, what power they have, and taking away the power of speech and what that does to a person.
Yeah, Sharon, congratulations on extraordinary work on the Wheel of Time. Thank you so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.